All right, what does it mean to be financially secure? I'm sure it's a question we've all asked ourselves.
The question is, how do you get to retire early?
But while we've got a pretty decent grasp of where we are now, it can be really difficult to quantify where we should be heading. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about a thought experiment, what I call the 6 levels of wealth. And it just gives us an idea of, right, where are you now and where could you be going or where do you want to be? So level 1 is dependent. Now, we all start our lives as financially dependent, reliant on someone else to provide for us. Sadly, many of us have various times in our lives where, due to unforeseen circumstances, we find ourselves here. This can be perhaps dependent on the state, or maybe even our family. When this occurs in adult life, money isn't just on your mind, it's seemingly the only thing on your mind. Perhaps there are debts that are building up, and this is something that seems impossible to escape. If someone was to say, what dominates your thoughts the most, money worries would be pretty high up on that list, just purely because of the circumstances. Things and concepts like financial independence are so far from being realistic.
All you need is 25 times your annual spending.
They're not really worth thinking about. The focus absolutely has to be on the here and now and trying to keep your head above water and maintaining a semblance of normality at what can sometimes feel quite a chaotic situation. Look, if this was you and you rather it wasn't, what I would say is don't beat yourself up. Famously, Ray Dalio was dependent on a loan from his dad.
I had to borrow $4,000 from my dad.
When his first investment firm went bankrupt, before he launched Bridgewater Associates, a now multi-billion-dollar business. Many of us get to this point in our lives, but let's be honest, it's not where we want to stay. All right, now level 2 is solvent. This is kind of where you have enough to pay your bills. You're not financially comfortable by any stretch, but you have enough money to make ends meet. Holidays aren't on the table very often, and unforeseen bills have a real ability to drag back your financial position for months. Part and parcel of this is you've got limited emergency funds, and savings always seem to be reducing back down to zero. Maybe credit card bills go down, but then somehow just seem to climb again. The concept in this situation of not getting paid for a month fills you with dread. This means that as a byproduct of this, you're reluctant to take many risks with your job or your future. And there's always a bit of a nagging feeling compared with your perhaps better off friends that they're able to take opportunities you can't. If we think about saving for retirement, that's something that's always for another day because the focus has to be on the here and now. Okay, so continuing to move up, we've got level 3. This is stable. This is where you've got 3 to 6 months in emergency funds, cash savings. You could actually now bear the brunt of most reasonable, unexpected expenses. And you've got enough money to lead a decent quality of life. Holidays aren't particularly extravagant, but you manage to get away normally, maybe once or twice a year. Your main focus financially now is really within the next 6 months to a year. Anything beyond that seems difficult to plan for as there just isn't the means to do this. But you have managed to start putting aside some money for investing. And maybe in this situation in level 3, you've got some assets that are building up, so perhaps you've been able to get onto the property ladder, but still the focus has to predominantly be on the here and now. Okay, so now we're getting onto level 4, secure. So your financial position is now looking a lot stronger. You've maybe got 6 months to a year in emergency savings in cash, and quite a solid amount now invested for the future. You feel quite confident that if you did have, for example, some trouble at work, or there was a one-off expense, you'd be able to handle this. Your stronger financial position as well has perhaps maybe changed your outlook on life slightly. You're now looking forward and not just thinking about the immediate, putting food on the table and so forth, but more, what direction do you want to go in? How can you find a more meaningful career financially or otherwise? Simply put, you've started to open up the luxury of choice, and the concept of being able to take a risk doesn't seem entirely infeasible. Okay, level 5, independent. You've done it. It's taken some time and it's not been easy, but you've now got what's called FU money. Not by me. But work is now optional for you, as you have enough money to live off your own assets alone. Congratulations. But strangely, beyond an initial break, you don't really want to stop working altogether. Your concept of what work is has just changed. This is incredibly powerful, as while you still have the struggles and mundanity of everyday life, you're choosing what you want to do. Your time is now an asset which has become the focus. Life isn't by any stretch solved. The habits you've had to achieve this independence have taken a long time to ingrain into you, and this self-discipline is really hard to shake, especially when it comes to spending. And now we're at the final stage, we're abundant. So very few people get to this stage, but now you have more than you could ever spend. Your focus is going to shift from you to your legacy. Now, clearly, to achieve this abundance, chances are you've had to get very good at a certain set of skills that the world needs. Feel that it's your time to pass on those skills. You do have some big questions though in your mind. Did I use my time correctly? Could I have made better decisions? So I hope you enjoyed that concept of the 6 levels of wealth. But let's talk about like the reality. Perhaps you are working your way up that list and you felt motivated to move up to the next stage. But there is probably, I believe, a far bigger question here, which is sort of the implied question of anything like this. Will getting to the next stage make me happier? I think it's just important to acknowledge that we as humans have the tendency to romanticize our past and glorify our future ideal states. You know, who here watching this has achieved a financial goal to realize that once you're there, it didn't actually make you feel that good. This is because it's very easy for things to be replaced with the next goal. It's what's called the hedonic treadmill. And it's a really key part of the human condition. And it's kind of hardwired into us. And because of that, I think we need to keep a healthy level of appreciation about this when setting our goals. You know, will getting to the next stage make you happier? Well, it depends. Money freedom will almost certainly improve your happiness compared to money worries. But money is a tool, not the goal in itself. And pursuing just getting through the levels is, I believe, deeply hollow and unfulfilling. A great example is this. You know, let's imagine a business entrepreneur who sells their business at a young age. They've gone from who's who to who is she or he. Financial goals on their own are pretty meaningless unless you have the structure in your life which gives you the fulfillment you need. Very simply, the pot at the end of the rainbow doesn't exist. And this, in my view, is one of the big questions in finance. So instead of deferred happiness, where we're spending 40 years of our life on a treadmill just to buy happiness in the last 16, and contributing to investments and pensions just for that, or maybe even just the financial independence retire early strategy, you know, try and save 75% of your income to 40 so that you can retire and do nothing. So was that useful? Why don't you let me in the comments what stage you're at? This has been Principles Personal Finance. Thanks for watching.